What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the Turbo and 2K show. And yes, we are still under Governor Whitmer's lockdown, so 2Ks is joining me on the horn. How we doing, brother? Doing really good, man. Doing really good. I mean, how we've been. If you've been following the NFL at all, you've had 6 games now in the past 2 days. So, well, five with the last one getting started here in a little bit. And yes, we will be diving into those as well as giving you our picks for Monday night's game. And we do have a little bit of business to take care of 2Ks. We didn't even acknowledge that it was a. Oh, hold on, real quick here. Let me do this real quick. All right, because you have found.
It's the Turbo and 2K show.
Boom! Yeah, sound effects are bitching, right? I know, but yeah, we like assholes just passed over the fact last week that it was our 100th episode, and I know our technical what is it anniversary is the second week of February is when we started, and it'll be 2 years, 2Ks. Can you believe that? 2 fucking years. It does not seem like we've been doing this for that long, and yeah, it's to me it just blows my mind that they normally they say with new podcasts that usually 6 weeks and they're done, and we've definitely blown that one out of the water, and we have you guys, the 2K crew, to thank. And in particular, we want to give a huge shout out to Darcy. Darcy has been our only Patreon this whole time. So if you guys want to go and support us in the Patreon, I mean, hell, we really don't promote it or talk about it a whole lot. So for those of you that do want to do that, it's patreon.com/turbo and 2Ks. And on top of that, we do have our own URL for YouTube. It's youtube.com/turbo and 2Ks, but it's with the apostrophe S. So make sure you do that. Otherwise, you won't find us. But yeah, we 2Ks. I don't even think I told you that. We were approved for that, which is super awesome. Yes, Darcy, thank you. Thank all the 2K crew for actually giving a shit and listening, because honestly, Kyle and I would do this anyway just because it's fun, but it makes it even more fun when it's interactive and you guys participate in the 2K crew. You download the audio version. For those of you that are just getting on the YouTube side of it, yeah, anywhere that you do get anywhere that you do consume your podcast material, just search Turbo and 2Ks and we will be there. So if you're driving, or if you're on the elliptical and you want to get some Turbo and 2Ks in, there you go, there you go. So you know what, 2Ks, let's just rip the Band-Aid off of the national title game tomorrow night. I believe that let me get in the middle of the frame here. That would help. But I believe it's an 8-point spread. Is that what you've been seeing? Bama by 8. Okay, and I mean we still don't know if Waddle's going to be back. I mean, he's been clear to play. How much he plays still remains to be seen. Um, the Buckeyes have landed. I mean, they do have enough players that are not affected by COVID to actually go through and do this game, which is completely awesome. Because there were rumors that they were going to push it back a week, and I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't 2Ks, because they haven't. I mean, they, as far as the college scene is concerned, they really didn't push any games back or reschedule any. I know the NFL, they kind of flip flop some Sunday games to Tuesday or something like that, but I think in this case it would have extremely helped the Buckeyes. A, because they're obviously getting their COVID players back, but B, it's going to give Justin Fields another week to kind of get those ribs or whatever that injury was he got in the against Clemson taken care of. So I'm going to let you take the floor here, and let's get your kind of 30 or 60-second breakdown and give me your official pick for the 2020, or I guess it's 2021 now, 2021 national title game.
Clemson. We got to see it in the first half of the Notre Dame game. And then Notre Dame kind of had an answer for him, but I think at the same time, you can kind of say that Alabama kind of called the dogs off a little bit also in that game.
Yeah.
And then for Ohio State, going into that game last week, that was the first time that we actually seen the offense that we were expecting to see Ohio State all season long. But I think with obviously the late start and then just kind of the Big Ten season in a whole, it was just kind of hit or miss. We didn't really so many games were going on, and then the next week they were on COVID protocol. And it just never was really consistent. So I don't think that their offense was able to, flow consistently either. So, I mean, tomorrow night I expect there to be a lot of points scored. But I have to give the edge to Alabama. Alabama's played the full season. There hasn't really been any hiccups in their season as far as the COVID protocol or anything like that. It's going to be a very exciting game. I hope, at least. I hope it doesn't end up being a low-scoring game or anything like that. But it's going to be a very exciting game. But I think that when it's all said and done, I think Alabama's defense can make more stops than Ohio State's defense can.
So, yeah, we've been talking about, whatever the – let's see exactly what the over-under is for that game. Because I'm actually curious myself. Hold on one second. I know this is great content when I put you guys on hold, but it shouldn't take me that long to find it. It's actually taking longer than I thought.
75.5.
70. Whoa. Yeah, but I think I would still take the over on that. I really do.
I'm taking the over on it.
Because I have a feeling the winner of this game is going to be in I have a feeling it's going to be in the 50s. I really do. And
yeah.
Before we get too far, what's up, man? How we doing, brother? Good to see you. You're always good for a comment or two every show, and we do appreciate it. And for those of you that are kind of lurking, there are some. Go ahead and drop a comment, man. Let's put you on screen and get a conversation going. But
yeah, let's hear some other people's opinions on tomorrow night and how they think things are going to pan out.
But I'm conflicted, 2Ks. I really am. I've obviously thought about this a lot. If you're going to give me the points, I'm taking Ohio State. If you're giving me the points, I'm taking Ohio State. If you're not giving me points and we're going straight up, I got to take Bama. But I do think this is going to be a close game. I do think that, like I said, I'm going to go out on a limb and take the points. I know it's not a very sexy pick because I think, everyone's going to be like, oh, Turbo, have some balls and just take Ohio State outright. No, if I'm putting money on it, which, we're betting hypothetical money here, 2Ks, because Lord knows what the history of our picks. Jesus Christ, both of us would be fucking broke by now. But but yeah, if we're hypothetically, if I'm dropping real coin on it, give me Ohio State in the points. But I would also split that bet and take the over because like I said, I think the winner of this game is going to be in the 50s. So we could actually see, an over being close to 90 or 100 in this game because that's both of these offenses, when you break them down, are both very, very high octane. Their defenses aren't as, kind of stout as they have historically been, especially with Ohio State with their, the Bosa brothers and then Chase Young, which, we've kind of seen how all three of those have kind of blossomed into very NFL awesome pass rushers. And then it seems like Saban's defense, half of them go in the first round every year. And I don't think you're going to, you might see one or two. What's his name? The corner. I think you'll see him going in. I'm probably in the top 5. But yeah, it's not as deep, it's not as stout as it has been. But it doesn't need to be when you have an offense that, like we talked about last week, averages like 49.7 points a game, and they haven't had their speedster receiver since like October. So whether or not Weddle makes an appearance, we don't know. It's something we'll have to see. But if he does, I mean, they're already borderline unstoppable. So you get that cat back, whew, that might, we might definitely, hell, Saban might hang 60 himself. I shouldn't say Saban himself, but Alabama themselves might hang 60. So it's definitely a very, very, I mean, Am I wrong though? Am I wrong?
No, no. And I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing with Bama is they've been doing it all season long.
Yeah.
Like, name the opponent, and they put 40, 50 points up on everybody.
And keep in mind too, and I'm sure this is something we talked about as well, is that this was an all SEC schedule. Granted, there are some teams in the SEC that aren't, barn burners by any means, but there were no cupcake games. There were no, tune-up games at the beginning of the season like Saban does with, which seems like D2 schools, and they blow them out like 85-3. It was all SEC games. So it was a tougher schedule. However, this is the most prolific offense that Saban's ever had. So had they played the quote unquote tune up games, good lord, where would this offense be if that would have happened? And then you look at all the awards that all these cats won. I mean, they're legit. They're coached by Nick Saban. I'm pretty sure at least the last 15 years, there's not been a not legit Saban team. He's had his boys ready to go at any at the drop of the hat. Which kind of makes me think it's like, all right, well, you've done this many times. Does it get boring? I know winning never gets boring, but sometimes it can. I would. I mean, does it become old hat? Obviously, he's definitely tried the NFL route, and that really didn't go the way he wanted it to. So then he came back to college, and that's where this Bama machine came from. So who knows? Like you and I have talked about, I'm just hoping for a good game. I don't want to blow out. I want Justin Fields to be the Justin Fields that we saw against Clemson. I want that Ohio State team to be the Ohio State team that we saw against Clemson, because I'm not the biggest Saban fan or Bama fan, but it would be nice to see Ohio State get over on them. However, if that doesn't happen, just give me a close game, something that, kind of a nail biter situation, because two cases, it might legitimately come down to who has the ball last with these two offenses. So yeah, that's our picks for that. Obviously next week we'll kind of break down the game a little bit, go a little bit more in depth, kind of review what went down, and kind of give you our reaction. But this week we're getting in the bread and butter here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk NFL. Lost the word. Playoffs. What's the word I'm thinking of? 2Ks. The Wildcard playoffs. There we go.
Yeah. Yep.
The Wildcard playoffs. I mean, if you're an NFL fan, yesterday and today, I'm pretty sure you were glued to your couch, ordering some pizza or some wings or something, and just becoming one with the couch, and maybe popping a couple tops, having some adult beverages. But let's start out with the first game. The Bills and Colts. And I tell you what, 2Ks, this game is a lot closer than what I thought it would be. I honestly thought Buffalo would come in and just demolish Indy. I really did. But
but the Colts are no team to.
No,
I mean,
no, you're right.
They're 11-5. They're 11-5 going into it. So I mean, just the AFC is so much better as far as top to bottom from the NFC. So many good teams that were playing important games in weeks in final week of the season just to get in. And with their record, they would have been in on the NFC side easily.
Yeah, and because I mean, hell, I think the Bears were the last team in at 8-8 on the NFC side. So, but no, you're 100%.
In that one division with a losing record.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, I just kind of thought that. Well, first of all, congratulations to Bills Mafia and the Buffalo Bills for winning a playoff game for the first time in 25 years, and. It's weird to say that, but they were kind of flashing some trivia on the bottom line, and it's like, all right, well, the Bills really haven't had a good team since Jim Kelly left. Put that into perspective. It's kind of like almost the same as Miami really hasn't had a great team since Marino left, and then to me that kind of blows my mind, because I mean you look at even. Taking into account Denver, John Elway was in that same draft class, same everything, and they've moved on. they've brought in they brought in Peyton Manning, obviously, but excuse me, that was a weird ass burp. But they've had playoff success, whereas the other two, Miami and Buffalo, haven't really kind of figured that out. But I think I'm pretty sure if you look at both of those franchises now, I think their perspective, their fan base would say that yes, we have our quarterbacks going forward, and especially Buffalo, where I think Josh Allen was kind of on the verge. Correct me if I'm wrong, 2K. Was kind of on the verge of being a bust. You look at
absolutely.
you look at the granted, the first year, the reason that they drafted him, I think it was 7th or 12th or something like that overall, it's because the team sucked. The team absolutely sucked. So that's why the teams that suck get better picks, and they took a flyer on a kid from Wyoming, which, to be honest with you, kind of flew under my radar. I don't watch very many. I think it's Big Sky Conference or some shit. I really don't watch a whole lot of that. But yeah, I'm blown away. 2Ks. I really am. Josh Allen has proved me wrong, time and time and time again. Wrong.
And just this season, really, for the
absolutely.
most part. I mean, just the jump that he made from last season to this season, and I mean, yeah, they made it to the playoffs last year, and they were out in the first round of the Texans. And that was a crazy game last season.
Speaking of crazy game, the Steelers just snapped the ball over Big Ben's head, and Cleveland just got a touchdown. They recovered it in the end zone.
Oh, geez. That's going to be the kind of stuff that Cleveland needs to have happen if they're going to pull it off tonight.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into this here before too long. But yeah, now 2Ks. My main question is, can you name a bigger acquisition than Stephon Diggs to an organization? I mean, just his presence has made that team. They showed graphics where this year compared to last, Josh Allen threw for 1,500 more yards and like 17 more touchdowns, and it greatly had his completion percentage increase. So you look at that trade from getting him from the Vikings. That was a game. Hell, that was a franchise changer right now. Not a game changer, a franchise changer. So is there in my mind, he's the best acquisition for any organization like the past 3 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it was the deal was so good for both of them. I mean, for Josh Allen to finally get himself a receiver to deal with, because I mean the thing, there's been a lot of knocks on Allen going into this season as far as him throwing the ball and his decision making, and I still think that the decision making, he still has a lot of work to be done. I mean, we saw that just in the final minutes of the game yesterday, where he kind of tried to cough it up with poor decision making, and he fumbled it, and the ball rolled and bounced off about 6 other guys before it was finally recovered by his offensive lineman in the middle of the field. But that was a play where you got to get rid of the ball as a quarterback. You got to get rid of it, or take the sack and tuck the ball and take the sack. But you can't take the last possible thing you can take in that situation is a turnover, and he put the ball on the ground. But besides that play alone, the jump that Josh Allen made this season from last. I mean, who really expected it? I mean, we all knew that he had the ability to run as a quarterback and be that mobile quarterback, and he had a cannon for an arm, but it was always the accuracy. He didn't have any accuracy, and bringing over Diggs this season, I mean, it was perfect for Diggs because there were so many times in the last couple of years watching him in Minnesota where it just didn't look like he was very happy there, and he wasn't getting the targets, he wasn't getting the ball, and probably had one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL and Kirk Cousins there. Yeah. And then he finally comes over here, and it's just like, I don't know, it's almost like his entire career has just been rejuvenated, and it's just excitement and playing with this young kid and Josh Allen and what these two did this season. This is the first time that they've played on the same field together. So looking into the future and looking into the next few seasons, it's got to be pretty exciting for Buffalo fans.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, his first playoff win in 25 years, 2Ks. It's almost as long as you've been alive, brother.
Yeah, and I don't think this team's going away.
No.
This is a team that I think can win the AFC. I think they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl. I really do. I think that they play well enough defense. I think obviously the season that Aaron Rodgers had this year, he's the no doubt MVP. But I got to think that Josh Allen is number two on the list for the MVP. I mean, I get it, Mahomes and the numbers that he put up, but Josh Allen's got to be considered right there with him, with Mahomes for finishing second in that running. So, Allen's not going anywhere. This Buffalo team's not going anywhere. They're going to keep adding to it, and I would look out for them for the next few years for sure.
There's there's always the argument too that they were able to get this far. They were able to win the division because TB12's not in New England. And to be honest with you, 2Ks, I don't think that fucking matters. If Tom Brady was still with the Pats this season, I think you'd still see the Buffalo Bills win that division, hands down, hands down. Yeah, to me they are. To me they're the second best team in the AFC right now. Because, I mean, record-wise, it's the Steelers, but Steelers are like fucking hot garbage. Hot garbage. Baltimore, yeah, I guess you can make an argument that Baltimore is, but they're just coming on lately.
They're peaking at the right time.
Yeah, and that's another game that we're going to get to here in a little bit, but. To me, the biggest threat to the Chiefs right now in the AFC is Buffalo, hands down. And if I know there isn't a way to do this, but if it were to happen that game, if those two met in the playoffs, if it were to happen that game would be in Buffalo rather than Arrowhead, I think you'd see a big difference. But the Chiefs earned home field advantage, so obviously that's not going to happen this year. But you're 100% right. This Buffalo team is not going anywhere. However, I did make because I've made a couple YouTube shorts, and I've I put it this way, I've gotten the attention of Bills Mafia. So that's kind of a good thing, but kind of a bad thing. I did post. I want to say it was yesterday. Yeah, it had to be last night. Just congratulating Bills Mafia. I said, but the defense needs to step up just a little bit. They almost let the wily vet Phillip Rivers squeak in there, and they've already lost a game via Hail Murray, if you will. So Rivers had he had the drive going to get down in the field goal range or possibly get a touchdown. And one of the comments left on my shorts was, "Well, come on, bro. You're thank you for giving Josh Allen the nod to go, because getting your first playoff win's huge. Getting that monkey off your back at an early time, unlike where you're like Lamar Jackson." And he's having to answer questions regarding his first, when is his first win going to be? So to get that win early is awesome. He takes that next step into becoming a more legitimate NFL quarterback. Now, if your defense is going to almost let Phillip Rivers slide in, then a whole other thing is going to come if you come to face a Lamar Jackson, or like you and I are kind of posturing here is that they're going to end up playing the Chiefs. That Chiefs defense or that Chiefs offense is way more potent than the Indianapolis offense. So for them to be a legitimate team, some defensive things for me need to be tightened up. However, it's a great way to start the playoffs. Like I said, and at this point in time, a win is a win. A win is a win. So big shout out to Bills Mafia. The last couple videos they've liked me, so. Fingers crossed that they stay like an old turbo here. But yeah, is there anything else on that game you want to touch on?
No.
And then it was the Rams and Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken, was the next game, correct? Because that one kind of shocked me a little bit. I know that Seahawks have had their hands full with the Rams, the last couple of games, but they were able to overcome some things and get some late game heroics from Mr. Wilson, which seems to be his MO regardless, because he's just that good of a quarterback. However, Aaron Donald and that crew just shut him down. I mean, he did have the the 2 touchdown passes to DK Metcalf, but he didn't even throw for over 250 yards. Had a pick six, which I think ultimately was the backbreaker for the whole game. And from the Rams side, Jared Goff is out with a broken thumb, or is mending a broken thumb. So you have your backup. Your backup lasts like 2 series, and he ends up going out. So Jared Goff has to go in. Was effective. Didn't look, wasn't, ripping up numbers by any means. And by the end of the game, Aaron Donald leaves, Cooper Kupp leaves. So they did get the W, but how much did they leave on the field to get that W? So it's going to be kind of interesting to see going forward with their walking wounded, who's available and whatnot. But it was a big win for Sean McVay and the Rams, because they have they probably have the best defense in the league right now. Wouldn't you say, 2Ks?
Oh yeah, hands down. That's the thing with it. With the defense that they have, they're going to be able to keep themselves in games. That's where their offense, and obviously with the thumb injury or whatever you want to call it to Goff, I don't know if it's so much of an injury. Is it? He just hasn't been performing all that well, and maybe that's part of the reason why I think he kind of lost his job there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the offense has been scuffling. One thing that was pretty intriguing to me watching the game last night was Cam Akers.
Mm-hmm. Cam Akers ran all over the place.
They've kind of, for lack of a better term, fucked around with 3 different running backs all season long, and I don't really understand why they've been doing that, because it's a no-brainer who the best back is there out of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Akers is the guy there. So getting that going, if they can get that run game going, that's only going to benefit Jared Goff. Jared Goff's not a great quarterback. He's not a quarterback that's going to beat up a lot of defenses. But the one thing, like, you go back to when the Rams were made it to the Super Bowl a couple years ago and were beat by the Patriots, they were able to get that run game. The Todd Gurley run game was so effective that it set up the play action, and that's what Jared Goff can do. When you can use your run game to set up kind of that easy pass, one side of the field, and not having to make a lot of reads. That's where Jared Goff that's where he can flourish. But so if they can get that going, their defense is going to be able to keep them in a lot of games. The problem is they run into Green Bay next week, and there's not really a defense all season except for the Tampa that has been able to figure out Green Bay's offense. So Green Bay had to be really, really happy to see the Rams pull that off yesterday, and obviously because that otherwise Green Bay probably would have been facing Tampa.
Yeah, and give you an update. Cleveland just scored again. So yeah, if Pittsburgh wants to, which is weird because Pittsburgh's backups beat this team, or almost beat this team last week. So this is kind of weird to me as it's unfolding, but that's the NFL any given Sunday, right? But no, you're 100% right about Jared Goff. I mean, I've always been a Goff fan. I like him. Is he gonna consistently throw for 350 yards a game and 3 touchdowns? No. But I think in that McVay system, I think he can be successful. They run their play action very similar to Tennessee. However, Tennessee's back is way different than any of the backs that are currently on the roster for the Rams. But you're right, everything does go off the play action, and when that's not there, then that's when their offense becomes stagnant, and that's when they find issues to score and things like that. So, but the whole game did shock me, because even when Aaron Donald went out, you would have thought that the Seattle offense would have had a little bit more success. That wasn't the case. It was very similar to when Aaron Donald was in there. And just watching Aaron Donald just pick apart that entire fucking offensive line, my God. It's like, is this dude really that good, or is this offensive line really that bad? And I think it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. Sporadically, Seattle was able to get get their running game going a little bit, but never really caught traction like they really wanted to. I know Chris Carson has been on and off the injured list, but it seemed like he was healthy for that game. So, but you did see DK Metcalf get extremely frustrated, which for a young receiver, that's something that he's going to have to accommodate and have to deal with going forward, because you're their number one, brother. You are their number one, even though Tyler Lockett had more catches than him. He led the team. He led the team in receiving touchdowns and receiving yards. So, and just looking at him, I mean, there's no doubt about who's the alpha there. I mean, come on. But so like I said, the score really didn't shock me, but just the lack of traction that the Seattle offense couldn't get. So you're.
It's really the thing that I mean, it's been a kind of a question mark to me. Really, the whole second half of the season with the Seahawks is what happened to them. I mean, what happened to that offense in the beginning of the season that was just lighting everybody up?
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning of the season, their defense couldn't stop anybody, but their offense was so good that they could get away with it because they were putting up 30+ points every single week, and Russell Wilson was throwing the ball all over the place. And in the second half of the season, it seems like their defense kind of started to figure things out.
Well, they had some defensive acquisitions too that that proved to be monumental to help shore up some of the leaks in that just leaking sieve of a defense. But yeah, you're right. It was believe me, because I lived it. I had my fantasy football team was doing very, very well when Russ and DK were doing their thing, and did very, very bad when they weren't doing their thing. So yes, I definitely know, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there with the same fantasy football problem. But speaking of fantasy football 2Ks, let's take a quick timeout, and almost forgot about this again. But the Turbo and 2K's second annual fantasy football challenge. Wanted to give a big shout out to Jack Eggleston, the 2020 reigning Turbo and 2K's fantasy football champion. He took down Kurt Hanneberg in the finals. I played Carl Gearhart for third and fourth and got fourth because Carl's team absolutely took a shit on me the first week. And even with a very, very strong showing with pretty much most of my team besides Russell Wilson on the final weekend, fell short, but still made the money. So congratulations to Carl, Kurt, and Jack. So just wanted, and just out of curiosity, 2Ks, where was your name there?
We're not talking about it. Don't want to talk about it. We'll talk about it next season.
I got to give you shit whenever I can. Getting back to our little football breakdown here, let's move on to the next game. Last night's kind of cherry on top, which this one kind of shocked me a little bit. You had the old Bucks and the Washington football team. And the Washington football team had a guy at quarterback I've never heard of. However, dude did pretty fucking good. Good.
I'd never had even heard of the kid before.
Was it Haneke or some shit like that?
Like, man, Washington won that division, which, let's be honest, is obviously the worst division in football.
Yeah.
And Washington gets into the playoffs, with a losing record. If this kid started at quarterback every single game this year, Washington football team would not have a losing record.
No, where did this kid
get? They would not have had a losing record, and why is this kid on the practice team all season long? I don't understand. I don't understand it. I mean, they messed around with Haskins all season long, who just wasn't, he's just a
horrible.
Boss. I mean, we're going to chalking him up as a boss.
Yeah, he's horrible.
And then you want to root for Alex Smith. You want to root for him. I want him to succeed, but with the injuries and everything that that he's had to battle through, him even being able to walk and run and just let alone be able to compete at the highest level on an NFL football field is just amazing to me.
And be successful doing it. I mean,
absolutely.
I honestly think if they would have had him like he was all season, they probably would have went 8-8. But with this kid, this Heineke, whatever the hell his name is, From what I gathered, he played in the was it the XFL, and ended up getting onto the. It was around early December. He signed on to the practice squad. And holy shit! This dude? I mean, for kind of lack of a better comparison, I mean, he looked kind of like Baker Mayfield out there.
Yeah.
But a more responsible Baker Mayfield. Like, he wasn't throwing it to the other team constantly. He wasn't making bad decisions. Hell, the kid looked like he'd been playing for 5 years. Like, at the NFL level. I can't remember who was commentating last night, but they were saying the exact same thing. It's like, where the hell did this kid come from? Where did this kid? And I was watching a card break too, and they were saying that on eBay the price of his XFL cards, I guess they were XFL cards, went from like $4 to $12. So if you were making some investment moves on that front last night, yeah, you made a couple bucks. But no,
I don't want yourself.
but no, you're 100% right. I had a feeling if they would have signed this kid a lot earlier than December 6th or December 12th or whatever it was, because that's right around the time that Alex Smith kind of made his reemergence, we might have seen this kid a little bit more. Now, here's the thing: is that obviously Washington has cut ties with Haskins, so that don't have to worry about him anymore. I don't know if they have Alex Smith on the roster or under contract after this year. You're going to have a pretty good draft pick. You're going to be picking right in the middle of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of like this Tyler Haneke. I'm sorry, I did not write his name down, and I probably should have, but he kind of got like a little nice little tester kind of see what you have in this kid. So, I mean, if he's on the practice squad, well, you don't have hardly anything invested into him. Now you've seen what he can do. Might as well give him a fair shot at the job. Hell, what could it hurt? What could it hurt?
Yeah, I mean, last night was the biggest stage you can possibly get on, other than the Super Bowl. Like, you're playing against the
TB12.
You're playing against the GOAT and TB12. You're playing against a very good defense, and Tampa's defense, who's it's not like they're a slouch of a defense that has been giving up points and all season long. No, they're pretty damn good defense. They're a defense that made Aaron Rodgers in the middle of the season, who was the MVP this year, look like shit. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't have one bad game all season long except for Tampa. This Tampa defense just freaking picked him apart and made the best quarterback of this season look like shit. And this kid gave the Washington football team, who I think most people thought going into this game was, they were in trouble. We just thought Tampa was going to just run all over them, and they were in trouble. And no, this kid gave them a legitimate chance to win the game.
And however, the kind of the underlying storyline leading up to this game was, as Washington won the game last week and had won the division, Chase Young was coming off the field saying, "I want Brady, I want Tom, I want the GOAT." And if I'm not mistaken, he recorded 0 sacks. So, Chase, you called on the GOAT. You called him out. This is what you wanted. And you know what? There's a lot of folks that kind of gave this kid shit about this, but not me. I mean, if I'm coming up as I was a number 2 pick overall, meaning I'm the best defensive end in this draft, the first thing I want to do is go sack the best. I'm sure every kid wants, every kid coming into the league wants to get at least a piece of Tom Brady, wants to get a piece of Aaron Rodgers, wants to get a piece of Pat Mahomes. They want to sack the best. And for everyone to call Chase Young out, I think is dumb. I mean, hell, he wasn't saying it in a malicious way. He wasn't saying, Tom Brady's a bitch, Tom Brady's this, Tom Brady's that. He's like, no, I just want Tom Brady. I want Tom. And he kind of explained that. He's like, to be the best, you have to beat the best, and it was his kind of mentality. So, for the folks that kind of took that out of proportion, shame on you. But yeah, he got a couple hurries. I I didn't watch the entire game, but from what I remember hearing on the breakdown this morning was 0 sacks, 0 sacks. So he got a shot at the goat and missed. But to be honest with you, this game was closer than what I thought. This game was completely. I was like, all right. I think we can all agree that Alex Smith is serviceable. Is he nearly? Of course, he never really had that big of an arm anyway. Even pre-injury. But he was very serviceable. I mean, he ran Andy Reid's offense extremely well. Had great success. I'm not gonna say great success, but better than average success at every place he's been. And he looked like he was channeling that and was a very good, for lack of better terms, game manager. Because he's his whole entire career he's never really been an interception thrower, or he usually always threw for a very high percentage. So, and partnered with that running game in Washington shouldn't have been a bad dig, but going forward, yes, there needs to be something different. And like you said, we're all fans of Alex Smith. We love the comeback story. I'm still blown away. He still has a leg, period, let alone starting in the NFL. So if that doesn't tug at your heartstrings a little bit, you are a cold-hearted motherfucker. But it's, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? And that's, to be honest with you, that's been Washington's thing since RG3 kind of exploded. When RG3 burst on the scene, we thought, oh, well, this is the new age of quarterback. Washington has the best quarterback in the league. And they were winning playoff games and divisions. And then RG3's leg pretty much exploded. So that kind of put the end to that. But since then, they really haven't had anybody. They've had good. They usually always have a pretty good defense. The weapons around the quarterback are kind of So their offense has been pretty much shit. So I think going into the offseason, they ran a graphic during that game that Washington's the only team in the whole NFL that spent 4 first-round picks in 4 consecutive years on your defensive linemen. So I think it's time to move past that, because you have all the defensive linemen you need now. Your defense is very stout, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say top 5 in the NFL. Now it's time to work on your offense. So it'll be kind of cool to see where they go from there. But yeah, this Heineke kid definitely deserves at least a fair shake at the deal, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But yeah, so moving on to today. Coming right out the gate is kind of the game that I think most everyone was kind of looking at or wanting to see was the Ravens and the Titans. And when it came to, obviously last year the Titans beat the Ravens in the playoffs to upset them. And that was the second loss of Lamar Jackson's short career in the postseason. The first one came against the Chargers the year before. But it was always, the leading up to the game was, is he ever going to get the monkey off of his back? First of all, calm the fuck down. It's only his 3rd season.
Yeah.
Can we all just take a break? Granted, he's a reigning MVP. I get that. But it's only his 3rd fucking season. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like they were hyping it up like after the game, like how's it feel to finally get your first win? And I'm thinking to myself, like, isn't this guy like 24 years old? Like,
yeah.
He's 24. Yeah. Like he's been in the league for 3 years. Has an MVP under his belt. Like I get it. Shit didn't work out in the first couple of years, but like, come on. We all knew that eventually he was going to win a playoff.
Oh, hands down. I just think with him, he draws a lot of comparisons to Pat Mahomes, which rightfully so. I mean, they're both young. They're both mobile. Yeah. I mean, parts of their game are very similar. However, parts of their game are very different. Whereas Mahomes is a very, very high completion percentage guy from the pocket, outside the pocket, doesn't matter, behind his back, through his legs. Whereas Jackson's more of the runner, more elusive, things of that nature. Where he's not going to beat Pat Mahomes in a passing contest. Let's put it that way. But they're both young, and we see the success that Mahomes has and has had, and we want to. It seems like we're always quick to judge because we always want the next best thing, and we can't. And then when we're done looking at the next best thing, we get bored and we just fuck it, like Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback on planet Earth right now. You could argue Aaron Rodgers, you can argue this guy, you can argue this guy. In my book, Pat Mahomes, hands down, can make all the throws, is elusive, and even for as young as he is, makes probably some of the best decisions I've ever seen a young quarterback do. And granted, does he have a lot of weapons? Absolutely. Absolutely. The defense is as good as it needs to be. And it's kind of the same way in Baltimore, where traditionally you're used to seeing, that run-stopping, ball-hawking, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis type defense, when it's not anymore. It's not. And, they become a lot more potent of an offense to kind of make up for that. But yet we all want to see the next best thing. So we're all trying to push him to where we want him to be, whereas maybe he wasn't quite ready until today, when, what was it, 20 to 13, I think was the final score or something like that. And basically the backbreaker was he broke a long run for a touchdown, and that was it. And the defense held Derrick Henry under 50 yards rushing for the game, where he had absolutely torched them the previous two games. So they kind of, getting back to your, when we were talking about the Rams and their play action, that is Tennessee's bread and butter. Of course, they have the best back in football, where you can do probably the most play action game ever, just because of who he is. And partner that with some emerging receivers that Tannehill has, and that offense has become a lot more dynamic because of that. However, today wasn't the day that was going to be a thing. So not only do we have Buffalo get their first playoff win in 25 years, and obviously Josh Allen's first playoff win, we were able to see Lamar Jackson get his first playoff win. However, Ben Roethlisberger keeps throwing it to Cleveland, and he might not have another playoff win because it's already 21-0 in the first quarter. So, if you are a Pittsburgh fan, I apologize.
And he just threw a pick.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I want to say it's his second one already in the first quarter. So,
yeah.
Speaking of quarterback issues, who knows? But so then, moving on from that, we went to me, this wasn't a shocker at all. The Bears and the Saints. I'm pretty sure the Bears didn't even score a touchdown.
They did. Last play of the game.
Did they? Oh, all right. Well, cool.
Last play of the game, they did. They actually threw a touchdown pass to Jimmy Graham. Nobody will talk about it, but it was a badass catch by Jimmy Graham. Looked like a rebound. I mean, one freaking hand, fully extended catch. He caught it for a touchdown, threw the ball backwards, and ran straight into the tunnel. Like, see you later.
And that's another team too that I think, obviously I'm a Bears fan, and it was not a very happy birthday to Mr. Plummer, by the way, with that loss. But I'm pretty sure if you would have asked him midway through the season, if you'd have told him that, happy birthday, the Bears are going to be in the playoffs, he probably would have been like, all right, like that's pretty awesome, even though damn well that we're not. I'll even throw myself in there. We're not winning a game in the playoffs. So if it was basketball, we'd have screwed ourselves because we wouldn't have made the lottery. But no, let's call a spade, and that's another team that is not going anywhere without a starting quarterback. Because even though Mitchie had some success down the last part of the season, you look at who they played, and
Yeah.
there are teams that he should have been hanging 40 on, but we shall see. I mean that's I was to go completely down the quarterback rabbit hole here real quick. 2Ks. They Todd McShay has Justin Fields going to New England. That can be kind of scary with Bill Belichick. Him being there for, that if he ends up, I mean, of course this is, just his big board and there's no trades or anything like that have been brewing, and Cleveland just scored again. But think how scary that would be. What Belichick and his crew could actually get going with Justin Fields if he stays healthy. Of course, that's always been a ding on him. So if he stays healthy, we might not ever see Bill Belichick leave coaching if Justin Fields is there for 20 years. That's scary. That's scary. But yeah, I just I saw that, and I just want to bring it up because I thought it was kind of cool, or not really cool because I'm not a big Patriots fan, but oh well. Like I said, I thought it was kind of neat. But yeah, let's. Wow, I don't even know where to start with this Cleveland game, dude.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it.
Did Pittsburgh get off the fucking bus? I mean, are they still in transit to Cleveland? I mean, this is what the hell happened to this team? They went what they go 11-0, 10-0. They're the last undefeated team, and it seems like they haven't won a game since.
Yeah, I mean, and
I don't get it.
They had a hard time last week with Cleveland, and obviously, I mean, they didn't play all their starters and all that, but when you watch the game the week before against the Colts, like they ended up pulling that win off, and it was like, okay,
they're back.
Turn things back around. Things are starting to look, but then you watch this shit tonight, and it's like, Ben throwing the ball away, a bad snap. I mean, it's almost like just one bad thing leads to another, and they just can't get out of it right now. And if there's anybody that can start throwing some points on the board, Roethlisberger can do it with the rest of them. He can start. But the thing is, you get behind 28-0 in the first quarter. Yeah, you have a lot of time left, but you start to question: have you dug too much of a hole now to get back out of it?
Well, I guess the one point of shining grace here, dropping 28-0 in the first quarter, is they haven't had much running game the last half of the season anyway. So if you were a James Conner owner in fantasy football, you wanted to kill every single coaching staff member of the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, line up. I want to slap you in the face. Because James Conner's a great back. And why they're not using him, I don't know. You would think they would, because Roethlisberger's getting hit way more than what he should. That's an offensive line that's been together, it seems like, forever. And you would think having the run would open up the pass, but maybe I don't know. But yeah, you're right, because getting down 28-0 in the first quarter, I'm pretty sure your running game is going bye-bye. And because you need to score quick, and on top of that, you need your defense to stop somebody.
Yeah.
Like it seems like Watt has just gone from, one of the best pass rushers in the league to nobody the last few weeks. I haven't heard his name at all. And it's
in this case tonight, though, I mean, the Pittsburgh's offense has been so bad turning the ball over and giving Cleveland a short field to work with, to where really their defense hasn't even been given a chance tonight. There's only been one drive of this game where Baker Mayfield's actually had to do something on and go start on the opposite side of the field,
right,
and make a drive out of it. But other than that, one score came from a turnover on the offense, and then the other score comes from or the other two scores come from two interceptions by Ben. So you know, I know I did not see things going that way. I mean, good for Cleveland. I mean, obviously the story all week long of not having their first year coach in Stefanski was because
Who's their
of
play
COVID.
caller?
Yeah, well, when things like when Pittsburgh's offense keeps on handing you fucking points, you don't even worry about having to call plays.
Well, especially with this play caller, I mean, you have a very good luxury in those two running backs. Just hand the ball off. Just hand the ball off. I mean, it really doesn't get much easier than that. I mean, Nick Chubb has lit this league on fire. And
two of the touchdowns today have come from Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, and you talk about a 1-2 punch. I mean, it does not get any better than that. So I mean, it now to me at this point that's when you're up 28-0. You just ride those two till the end of the game because Pittsburgh obviously hasn't been able to stop those two, and the more you keep those guys involved and the ball in those hands, Baker can't fuck anything up. And because you know as well as I do, there'll be a game where everything's comfortably in hand like this, and Baker starts trying to be Superman and starts trying to force everything, and that's when he starts turning the ball over, and the other team gets back into the game because of that. So whoever's calling plays over there in Cleveland, just hand the ball to the running backs. Just hand the ball. If you need to throw when you need it. But this is one of those games where, especially without Baker having a lot of experience in these situations in the playoffs, that's when I want to keep it out of his hands as much as possible so he doesn't fuck it up. And because I this would not shock me because it would be the Cleveland thing to do is to cough up this 28-point lead and lose in the waning minutes of the fourth quarter or in overtime, and Big Ben just basically fucks you in the ass again. He tries to give you the game, but you won't take it. You just give it right back. I mean, that's the Browns thing to do. I mean, that is totally the Browns thing to do. So, Kurt, I hope you're listening because I don't want that to happen because, to be honest with you, I like watching the Browns play. They're an exciting team to watch. Just like Buffalo. I mean, they're kind of one of those teams that go under the radar a little bit, where no one really talks about them. The only reason they talk about the Browns is how much they suck, or there's almost another snap over Ben's head, or kind of doing like the Lions do and figure out ways to lose. They don't do it as prolifically as the Lions do, but think back a couple years ago, 2Ks, for a combined 2-year record, this team had 1 win. So to go from there to where they are now, I mean, that's, as a Cleveland fan, you have to be very, very happy on where things are going, regardless of what happens in this game tonight or not. But where your team is trending is good. Is good. So, Kurt, Mr. Hanneberg, you got to be loving life right now, brother. Got to be loving life. So, I think that kind of wraps everything up. 2Ks. We did our kind of 6-game roundabout. We did what we forgot to do last week and talk about our 100th episode. And thank Darcy again. Big shout out to her and Frank. Happy belated birthday, Frank. And I mean, those are, to be honest with Kyle, those are our 2 biggest fans right there. And like I said, our only Patreon, so they obviously love us. And again, if you'd like to join Patreon and love us too, patreon.com/turbo2ks. You do get access to every episode, at least on the audio side early. So there's a little bit of a bonus there. And if we do start to get more people in there, we'll up the ante a little bit to make sure folks are getting their money's worth. But anything else we need to talk about, 2Ks?
No, I think that's everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff that we need to talk about, just not on this episode.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this weekend alone, though.
We need to talk about Frankie Lindor being a Met. We need to talk about rumors of the Padres locking up Tatis forever, which they should. Give him a blank check. I'd speaking of that real quick, My boy Brian, and I shared that in the 2K group. He goes, "Well, is he worth it?" And I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, he might. I'm not saying he's better than Trout right now, but he has the talent to be right up there with Trout. And to lock him up at this age for that amount of money is actually pretty cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, I mean,
He's fucking worth it.
yeah, because his salary would fit pretty much nicely between Acuna and Trout. I mean,
Yeah.
the Braves stole Acuna when they extended him, but I mean, yeah, especially for a fan base that's been teased. That I mean, they're doing everything right to get to where they need to. I'm going to say it right now. They're a better team than the Dodgers are right now. So it's going to be exciting to talk about them moving forward. But yeah, we'll definitely dedicate a probably after next week we'll do a baseball show 2Ks because I guarantee there'll be more stuff to talk about.
I've been itching to do some baseball,
yeah,
and especially with all the things happening. You know, as far as the free agents and some of the trades, and obviously the Lindor trade. I mean, just so many big things have happened, but we've had so much football, you know, stuff down our face for the last. I mean, basically all week.
Yeah.
Weekend. You know, when you talk about, you know, football all day yesterday, football all day today, national championship game tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically football right now, but. Yeah, I'm itching to do some baseball.
And let's be honest, we both would much rather talk baseball than basketball any day. So you'll definitely start to get some of our baseball talk. But I promise you, 2K crew, we will get into obviously some NCAA hoops, and then we're going to talk about how awful my fantasy basketball team is. So keep an eye out for those episodes because we will be bringing it to you. And Kyle, if there's nothing else that you want to bring up, brother?
Nope, that's everything.
All right. Well, 2Ks, you have a great week. You have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. We will talk to you again next week. I am going to try to chop up some of the video to give you some little bit more tidbits throughout the week, but check out the channel. Like the shorts because they're actually really, really fun to do. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.